Hello, and thank you for tuning in to a special Trip Hacks DC live stream on a beautiful Sunday here in Washington, D.C. I am currently right outside Nationals Park, and we're going to be doing a walk around the neighborhood. So, if you don't know who I am, hello, good afternoon. My name is Rob. I'm the founder of Trip Hacks DC Tours and the host of this YouTube channel. So, I am going to be walking around outside the ballpark over the next hour or so, showing you around, and we'll have a little chat and explore. So let's see who we've got tuned in already to the live stream. Yoshi Elevators, hello. And if you are watching this on the replay, I am curious about what you think about everything that's going on in the neighborhood, because I made a video about things to do before a Nationals game, but it's a few years old now, and it's a bit out of date. Some things have changed. And so I'm curious if you have been to a Washington Nationals game in the past, what you did before, if the places that I'm showing you today were even around, and what you would like to do the next time you make it here for a game. Jay Stewart, welcome from beautiful England, and hope to make it here. Go Nats. Thank you, Jay. I'm glad that the time zone translation worked out. I know you unfortunately missed a few of these in the past because we got our time zones crossed. Vivian Young from New York City, thank you for tuning in. And Lisa Shanklin, hello Lisa, good to see you. And Daniel, good to see you. I know you were just here in DC. Did you get to go to any sports games while you were here, Daniel? I am curious. So I am currently on the farthest end of the ballpark. This is, I forget which gate this is. This is the home plate gate. This is not the gate that most people will use when you come to a game, because the Metro is on the complete opposite side of the park. It's all the way up and over there. So most folks who come for a Nationals game will not use this gate, which is why if you look behind me, you might say, nobody's attending the game. It just so happens that not many people are using this gate to get into the game. So I'm sure there are quite a few people here, and they are playing the Giants, San Francisco Giants, which is a popular team. And so, for better or worse, I think there probably will be quite a few Giants fans here as well. Bobby Planzer used to live in DC and really miss it. What do you miss most about it, Bobby? I'm curious. And Levin Ward, amazing to see DC back to semi-normal. Yes, it is back to semi-normal. So we just had, on Friday, basically all restrictions were lifted. So on Friday, it was the first day that, in theory, every single ticket, every single seat at the Washington Nationals game could have been sold. Now, I know for a fact that it was not a sellout. The Nationals are not performing especially well this season, so I highly doubt you're going to see many sellouts this year, if at all. But in theory, if you want to come to a game and there's a seat available, you can buy that seat. And Yoshi Elevators has not been to a Nationals game, but hopes to come back. So this corner is a bit of a mess at the moment. Off in the distance over here, that is Audi Field. That is the semi-new soccer stadium here in DC, opened a few years ago. And so I will not be going across South Capitol Street, this huge busy street today. But if you are curious about a soccer game day, you want me to do a similar one of these, but for a soccer game, leave a comment and let me know, because I'm always curious about which live streams people like and which ones they're not so into. So if you're a soccer fan or you want to see a walk around the soccer stadium, let me know and I will try to do one of those in the future. Now hopefully I can make it safely across the street. This is always a busy street and a little scary. Up ahead we have the new Douglas Bridge. Looks beautiful. And that's the reason why there's so much construction at that corner right now, is that when the new bridge opens, they're going to need to reroute some of the traffic that's currently going over the old bridge. So that corner is a bit of a mess at the moment, but I think that should be the only construction that we walk through over the next little while. PR Hardin, 1986. Says they are headed this way on Saturday. Excellent. I believe the Nationals are playing the Mets next Saturday. Are you a Mets fan or a Nationals fan, or you just like baseball? And thinking of a game on the 28th. I'm not sure off memory who they're playing on the 28th. I assume you mean June 28th. All right. Tony Lynch was at a Nationals game in 2019 when visiting DC. 2019 was the best year to go to a Nationals game because that was the year that the Nationals won the World Series. And K Hall hopes to visit Washington, D.C. next year from the UK. Visited D.C. in the summer of 2019 after the World Scout Jamboree. I didn't know that people traveled in from all over the world to see that. I assumed that was just a domestic thing. Now, this little area here is called the Sand Lot. So they have these picnic tables, and then you can go over to this little bar, get yourself a drink, and take it to the table. Take it to one of these tables and enjoy. And I believe that they are having a rotating assortment of food trucks come through to provide food for the Sand Lot over the course of the summer. So I think that's pretty cool because it means that you can try different things beyond the places that are here all the time. But that said, there are a ton of places here. There are no shortage of places to eat and drink. Now behind this wall, you can possibly see it says Bardo Beer Garden. There is a beer garden back there. I think the entrance changed to the other side, so you can't go in this entrance anymore. I'm actually not quite sure about the status of Bardo. It is a beer garden that's, you know, underneath this structure over here, and you can see some of the brew tanks over there. Now I know that they were allowed to use this space only until the new bridge was completed, and they're going to start tearing down the old bridge. So, not sure about the status of their lease, but it was always only meant to be temporary anyway. Glenn Fisher is planning a trip in September. Am I going by the Hampton Inn? That's where we're staying. I am going past, yes, the Hampton Inn in this neighborhood. I can't remember the exact name, if they call it Hampton Inn Navy Yard or Capitol Riverfront, but I am going past the Hampton Inn, so stay tuned for that, Glenn. That is the closest hotel to the ballpark. So if you're coming to DC and going to a game, it is extremely convenient. And Mike Edmondson, Mike and Lorraine from Newcastle, UK, hope to visit next year. Next year, I assume, means 2022. And Bat Dog says, go Giants. I assume a Californian there. Jason Bone, how nuts is the July 4th game? So I have attended the July 4th game many times because that is one of the days when most tour guides take the day off because we can't run tours because of the security perimeter on the National Mall. The game starts at 11 a.m. and it's usually pretty busy, but I don't think I would go out of my way to call it nuts. So for perspective, a playoff game, of which I've been lucky enough to attend a few, I might call those nuts. I don't think I would put the July 4th game on the same spectrum. So this is all-purpose pizza right over here. By my count, there are now at least 6 pizzerias near the ballpark. And I might be able to show all of them to you during this walk. But all-purpose, they are quite tasty. I think they are a Neapolitan style. If anyone knows for sure, leave a chat and correct me. Rohan asks, how is the weather? The weather is beautiful. It is a beautiful June summer day here in Washington, D.C. It's a little humid, so this is not San Diego weather here. It's a little humid. It's probably in the 70s, maybe right around 80 degrees, but I would say this weather, at least in my opinion, is quite nice. This is the Salt Line. Now, one thing I know about the Salt Line is that Ryan Zimmerman, the Mr. National, as we call him, longtime Nationals infielder, is a part owner in the Salt Line. Now, I don't think that that has any impact on the operation or the quality of the food, but it's a popular spot because it's got all these nice outdoor tables, and it's one of the few spots that actually has a legit outdoor bar. If you can tell in there, underneath that structure, there is an actual outdoor bar. Lots of places have outdoor seating, but the actual bar where they pour your drinks is indoors inside the restaurant. But the Salt Line, if you want to drink outdoors, not a bad choice. And this little spot over here, Dacha Beer Garden, another popular outdoor eating and drinking spot in the neighborhood. I know that one of my tour customers, Eddie Saunders, came here a few weeks ago while he was in town. So Eddie, if you're tuned into the live stream, a membership to Nationals games and used to go every weekend and love the President's Race. Well, good news, Bobby. The President's Race is back. So on Friday, the Presidents ran their first race since the World Series in 2019. So it was a big deal. I went to a game earlier this year, a few weeks ago, and the Presidents did not race. So I was quite disappointed about that. But the next time I go to a game, the Presidents will be racing again. And Daniel says, went to a Wizards game in DC, my last sporting event. Yeah, the Wizards are fun. The Wizards have not been especially good in recent history, which for fans of the Wizards is a huge bummer, but for visitors or general basketball fans, actually it can be quite nice because it means it's easy to get tickets, and the tickets are not too expensive. On the other hand, the Capitals, who were Stanley Cup champions and have been historically good, at least in recent history, those tickets are much harder to get and tend to be a bit pricier. Levin Ward says, I just heard about Metro extending hours to midnight and 2 a.m. later this year. This will benefit a lot of people and nightlife in DC, 100%. So the extended hours, actually I think some of the extended hours may be starting in July. I'm not 100% on the details here, Levin, so I'm just going to give that disclaimer. But then in September they're doing another extension. They're going to do more trains and buses, and they're going to have, if this all goes through, they're going to have flat weekend fares, which is going to be a huge deal because it means that you can ride from any station to any other station for only $2, which is lower than the current minimum fare that's based on the distance that you travel. So once all the details have shaken out, I'll try to do an update video about that. But it's going to be a big deal when those Metro improvements come. Lisa would love to see the new soccer stadium. Well, thank you for voting for that, Lisa. If you're watching this on the replay and you're a soccer fan and you want to see a walk around the soccer stadium, Audi Field, on a game day, leave a comment so that I know. So this is the Anacostia River. This is not the Potomac River. The Potomac is the one that everybody knows, the famous one. Called the Ballpark Boathouse. Now, it's already June and they have not opened, so I think it's probably not looking good for them to come back for 2021, which is a huge bummer because I actually quite like boating around the Anacostia River. It's much less busy than the Potomac River. The Potomac, you've got big boats, you've got water taxis, you've got all kinds of stuff. This one tends to be quite a bit calmer. But I just heard that there is now a kayak shortage. There's a shortage of just about everything this year. And unfortunately, I suspect that's probably impacting the kayak rental companies too. Yoshi Elevator says DC has a lot of construction going on, it looks like. 100% Yoshi. There was, I mentioned it on my Georgetown live stream a few weeks ago. It's possible that DC has more cranes in operation right now than anywhere else. Now, of course, that's always changing as cranes get taken down as projects finish and go up elsewhere. But there was a time when that was true. Tim Maldoni, hi from North Carolina, love the district. Excellent, Tim. Glad you love it. And Jay Stewart saw the Caps and WFT on my last trip. Don't think we'll catch a Nats game this year. Wife thinks it's boring. Well, that's too bad for her. Remind me what WFT stands for, Jay, as I'm blanking on that at the moment. Now, this boardwalk is pretty cool, pretty nice, and this year on July 3rd, the Nationals are going to have post-game fireworks. So to give you some perspective, I'm about halfway across the boardwalk right now. Nationals Park is right over there. And when they have fireworks after a Nationals game, they usually set them off either from some kind of boat or barge on the river or from that area on the other side of the river. So what that means is that if you see Nationals firework night, you don't actually have a ticket. You don't actually need a ticket to the game to see the fireworks. If you come out onto the boardwalk, and just hang out here, like I am now, then you can watch the fireworks too. So that's a trip hack you're probably not going to hear many other places. And I think it's important because if you are coming for the 4th of July, you've got the big 4th of July fireworks on the National Mall. Assuming they happen, the National Park Service is still being tight-lipped about that. But this one is definitely happening. Post-game fireworks after the Nationals game. So either get yourself a ticket to the game or come out to the Boardwalk and watch the show. Mark Finley, how you doing, my friend? I suspect it's probably a bit cooler here than it is where you live. I would guess it's Yoshi Elevator says it's 82 here in Connecticut. And Chow. All right, anybody there? Can anybody see me? All right, according to Jason, it is back. So everybody disconnected when the technology failed, but to the 11 of you that stuck around, you are the most dedicated fans of the TripX DC live stream. Okay, we have confirmation that the live stream is back. So what was the last thing you saw? So I can pick up where we left off. Or at least try to. Nobody got the lowdown on the cicadas. Okay, well, they are still around, but far, far fewer of them than in previous weeks. So if you were here over Memorial Day weekend, which is when I think they were at their peak, they are much less than that. Now, there are still some of them, so there's more than none, but there are not nearly as many cicadas as a few weeks ago. And Jason, I didn't answer your question about the water taxis. So there is a boat called the Baseball Boat, and I don't know for sure if it's back. So if anybody enterprising in the live chat wants to go on Google and look up the Washington, D.C. Baseball Boat and confirm whether it is operating this season or not. I suspect that before the Nationals got back to 100%, that the Baseball Boat was not operating, but now that they're back to 100%, it might be back. However, I'm not sure because water taxi in general is not operating at 100%. They're only operating 5 days per week this year. All right, so I guess people missed the whole Boardwalk walk, which is quite unfortunate because I also gave you a hot tip when I was on there that if you are here on July 3rd, the Nationals are doing post-game fireworks, and you don't have to necessarily have a ticket to the game. If you want to watch the fireworks, you can come over and stand on the boardwalk or come stand in this little area where I am standing right now, and you can generally catch the fireworks because they usually set them off either from some kind of barge on the Anacostia River here or from that little green spot on the other side. So I have taken advantage of that myself more than a few times when I either had something else to do that evening, like give a tour, or, you know, for whatever reason, I just didn't have a ticket to the game, but I wanted to watch the fireworks. I just popped by after the game and enjoyed the show. And Tyler asks, is Metro crowded after games? Historically, yes. I assume people will be taking Metro to get to games again this year. And so immediately after the game, like after the last out of the last inning, it's probably going to be pretty crowded. But compared to the before times, who knows? Who knows? Now this is a very popular spot if you are in town, have kids, want to cool down. It's not a swimming pool. It's not deep enough to swim. It's mostly for kids, but if you want to come and cool down, that is a spot to do it. And Jason asks if I've got any top secret, quieter spots for the July 4th fireworks. My favorite spot always historically was near 3rd or 4th Street, in between the Capitol and the Washington Monument. And I liked that spot because it was outside the security perimeter. But because the National Park Service has not announced any details for the fireworks this year, I can't say for sure. For all we know, they could be extending the security perimeter, and that won't be a good spot anymore. So I'm just anxiously waiting on them to announce some details. Flora Vieira, thank you for the super chat, my friend. Very much appreciated. Thank you for tuning in. All right, we've got some live music happening over here. This is actually, in my opinion, one of the cooler spots if you want to hang out before or after a baseball game. There's two restaurants here, actually. One is called Due South, which is the one that all these folks are sitting at. And then the one around the corner, which is not open today for some reason, is Nicoletta Pizza. Both good spots for sitting, relaxing, enjoying a beverage on the boardwalk. And this park is called the Yards Park. I'm a big fan of this one. In the before times, they had a Friday night concert in this park, so if you watched my video about summer things to do, I recommended it. Now, unfortunately, they did not have that last year, and they are not having it this year. But they did just replant the grass. So this is some nice grass. Probably couldn't see me touching it there, but it is nice and green and soft if you want to come and sit on it. Jay Stewart asks, how far is Nats Stadium from the National Mall? Well, National Park, it is one of my pet peeves when people call it the wrong thing. I can forgive you, Jay. You're from another country. It's called Nationals Park. It's not called National Stadium. It's not called Nationals Ballpark. It's called Nationals Park. It is about, I think it's about 1 mile from the Capitol. So if you consider that the edge of the National Mall, it's only about 1 mile away. It's 2 stops on the Green Line from L'Enfant Plaza. So L'Enfant Plaza is one of the metro stations you can use to get to the National Mall. So it's not far. You could walk it if you wanted to. I would probably personally not walk it. I would either take a Capitol bike share, my preferred method of getting around, or I would take the metro, which is how most people go when they go to the game. Yes, Jay, in England we call them stadiums, so it's a bit of a mixed bag. Some baseball ballparks are called stadiums, or officially called stadiums. So I think Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City, I believe the official name of the park is Kauffman Stadium. Sometimes they're officially called field, so Citi Field in New York City, for example, would be an example of that. And sometimes they're called park, like Nationals Park. Now right over here we have Ice Cream Jubilee. This is one of the OG spots in this area. And if you come here on a hot day after a baseball game, the line will probably be snaking out the door because the ice cream is delicious and very good. Now this spot up ahead on the left, this is called Steadfast Supply. So sometimes people ask me where they can go to get souvenirs, and my question always is, what kind of souvenir are you looking for? If you're just looking for stuff that says Washington, D.C. on it, then you can go to any of the gift stores or any of the roadside vendors because they all buy from the same wholesale and basically have the same stuff. So it doesn't matter, there's no point in shopping around. Now if you want something that's locally made or more unique to Washington, D.C., you can come to a place like this, Steadfast Supply. Or you can go to a place like Shop Made in DC. I think they're up to 4 locations now. Georgetown, The Wharf, DuPont Circle, maybe a 4th one that I'm forgetting. But I like places like this because you can get a cool souvenir that's more than just a cheap shirt that says FBI or Washington, D.C. on it. And anything you buy in there is locally made, so you're keeping your money local, which I think is important as you travel this year. So let me know in the chat what kind of souvenirs you prefer when you travel. Do you prefer the souvenir with the city's name on it where you've traveled to? Do you prefer a souvenir that's like a conversation starter? Or do you not like souvenirs at all? I know some people don't like souvenirs at all because it's just an extra thing you have to carry home. And Chandra, hi from Indonesia. Thank you for tuning in from so far away. What time of day is it where you live, Chandra? I'm always curious when other people visit what time of day it is where they are. Hopefully my stream is strong for the remainder of the walk, but I trust in all of you to tell me if there are any more technical glitches and I drop off so that I can attempt to restart the stream. 00 p.m. Is that midnight? You're on the other side of the world, so that seems like it would be about right. And Jason's favorite souvenirs are magnets and postcards and a mini bat from a baseball game. Now, if you listen to the most recent episode of the TripHex DC podcast, this restaurant, Albi, was mentioned. Very, very popular and highly regarded. And this spot right here, probably can't even see the sign, but this little cafe is called Yellow the Cafe. And it's kind of the grab-and-go version of Albi. So if you don't have time to sit down for a meal, or you don't want to spend the money because Albi is very expensive, you can head in here to Yellow the Cafe and get some treats to go. And if anyone is also a fan of the YouTube channel Yellow Productions, I told Chris Rainey when I had him on the podcast last year that the next time he comes to DC, I would like to take him to Yellow the Cafe because it is 100% on brand for him. And Lisa asks, have I done a walking tour of the wharf yet? No, I have not. Would you like to vote for a walking tour of the wharf, Lisa? I'm always interested in ideas of what people would like to see. So if you would like to see the wharf, leave a chat or leave a comment on this video if you're watching the replay. Let's see, Vivian collects Christmas ornaments, prefers the location to be on them. So if you like Christmas ornaments, the White House Christmas ornament is technically, I guess it's technically local since the White House is here, but every year the White House Historical Association does a special ornament, and that is a very popular souvenir gift. Annie from Bexley, Ohio. What part of Ohio is that in? Annie? Is that in central Ohio? Northern, southern? And Chandra says yes, midnight. We have votes for the wharf. Would like to see the wharf. Okay, we have come upon pizza parlor number 2. This is called Emmy Squared. This is brand new. I believe this just opened this weekend. I saw a post that said they were going to open this weekend, and looks like they're not open for lunch today, but they are now open and hiring. So if you are looking for a job, they are certainly looking for people. This is Detroit-style pizza. So all-purpose, I believe, is a Neapolitan-style pizza, and Emmy Squared is a Detroit-style pizza. So let me know in the chat if you like Detroit-style pizza, or if you even know what it is. I only recently learned what it is, because I'm not from Detroit. It is a square pizza. It's got the sauce on top of the cheese, I think. Someone who's an expert in Detroit-style pizza can correct me here, because I'm probably butchering the description right now. But this is a sign corner over here for all the spots. We've got Yellow the Cafe, sign pointing this way. And then in this direction, we've got Emmy Squared, Detroit-style pizza. We've got Jenny's, which is ice cream, I believe from Ohio. Maybe Annie can tell me, since she's from Ohio, about Jenny's. Jenny's just opened. It is extremely delicious. But I've got to say I prefer the hometown ice cream shop, Ice Cream Jubilee, that I just showed you a few minutes ago. And then we've got La Famosa, Puerto Rican. So some good spots down behind me. And we've got Chloe up here on this corner. The vice president just visited Chloe 2 weekends ago, I believe. The current president and vice president have been dining out in DC quite a bit, so it's always interesting to see where they pop up. And Annie says Bexley is 4 miles from Columbus. Good to know. And Vivian says, oh, I have a White House ornament from my visit to the White House a few years ago. So you can get them every year. Every year they're different, so you can keep collecting them, Vivian. Okay, this is Blue Jacket. This is one of the most popular breweries in Washington, D.C. I think this is probably about 8 years old at this point. It was a huge deal when it first opened. I remember it was extremely popular. You could barely squeeze into it when it first opened a few years ago. And it just so happens that several of my guests on the Trip Hacks DC podcast have recommended Blue Jacket as a place to go. And so now everyone who's a big fan of Trip Hacks DC is going to Blue Jacket. And I was actually in there a couple years ago, and two different people spotted me because they heard it on the podcast and then they wanted to go. Right next door is Hatoba, which is ramen. If you watched my video where I did the takeout challenge, where I ate takeout every day for a week at the beginning of COVID, I had ramen as one of my meals. It was from one of the sister restaurants of Hatoba. And I had very low expectations because to me, ramen is something you have to get at the restaurant. It's not something that you get as takeout. But as it turns out, it was extremely delicious, and now I get ramen takeout all the time. Now you do have to heat it up in the microwave, but it's still really good. One of the biggest surprises of COVID for me was takeout ramen is delicious. And then we've got Nando's. I only learned recently that Nando's is a global chain. You can get it in London, you can get it in South Africa, you can get it in tons of countries, but there's only like 3 or 4 cities in the US where you can get it. So I had assumed this whole time that Nando's was like a chain that everybody had and that everybody knew. And then people would tell me, I went to Washington, D.C. and I went to Nando's, and I was quite confused. But it's because they don't have it where they live. It's grilled chicken, and quite good, if I may say. Annie says, Jenny's Ice Creams is from Columbus, Ohio. Yes, it's called Jenny's Ice Creams, plural. I've always found that curious. Most ice cream places, it's called, so-and-so's ice cream, singular, but Jenny's is Jenny's Ice Creams, plural. So if you've just tuned in and you haven't said hello yet, say hello in the live chat and let me know where in the world you are tuned in from. Or if you joined me at the beginning and left when we had that technical glitch, welcome back. So this building is one of the coolest buildings around, and also one of the saddest stories. It's been sitting vacant for years. As you can see, iconic building for sale or lease. So if anyone's got some money they want to spend, there's the phone number you can call. I always imagined this could be quite a cool event space. Weddings, parties, that sort of thing. It's huge. I mean, it's just one giant room. As you can see, you could probably subdivide it if you want, but you could imagine having some cool parties in there.
It'll shut down.
Charles Dobbs, hello from Franklin, Tennessee. Thanks for tuning in, Charles. And Chandra says, going to study at Georgetown University this fall. Do I have a video about finding housing? I don't have a video about finding housing because this is more of a travel channel, more for people who are visiting on vacation and such. But I have been considering doing a moving to DC series if people are interested in that. If you're attending, if you're coming to DC for college or graduate school, my recommendation is to simply ask them for help, because if you're coming from another country, Georgetown University ought to have some people who are able to help you find a place to live. At least I would hope so. But Chandra, if you want to check out my video, my live stream from a few weeks ago, I did do a walk around the Georgetown University campus, if that's where you're going to be studying. Unless you're going to be at Georgetown Law School, which is in a different location. And Bat Dog is calling in from Salt Lake City. Jason Bone from Milwaukee. and glad the videos have been helpful for your 4th of July visit. As soon as the National Park Service announces details about the 4th of July, I will have an updated video. But it is frankly infuriating that 4th of July is 3 weeks from today, and if you go on the nationalparkservice.gov website, they still have information from 2020. So this little space here, this is called the Transportation Walk. Now this building, this whole thing, including the building on the other side of the walkway over there, this is the U.S. Department of Transportation headquarters. And they've been here for about a decade and a half, I guess, at this point, in this building over here. And this little walkway here is called the Transportation Walk because it's kind of like a little outdoor museum. You can see some information on the wall over there. They have little exhibits. There's a gas pump up here. So this is certainly no Smithsonian Museum by any means, but if you're walking past, why walk over here in the sun when you can come walk in the shade over here and take in some of the exhibits too? I like walking over here because it's in the shade. Bat Dog used to live in DC. Well, come on back, Bat Dog, if you can swing it. Alan Wayne, good to see you, my friend, from Pensacola, Florida. And Claudia Fuentes from San Antonio, Texas. And we'll also be here July 4th. So let me just say that if you are going to be here on July 4th, if you haven't already, start getting all your bookings made, your reservations made, all that stuff, because just anecdotally, I can show you on the live chat, all of you guys are going to be here on July 4th, and also stuff's getting booked up. So I think I only have one private tour still available that weekend, and I think I only have maybe 6 tickets left on the public tour that weekend. So if you want to do stuff over 4th of July weekend, get it booked so that you don't miss out. Yes, good luck, Chandra, with your move to Georgetown University. And Eva, what are some things I need to know before I fly out Thursday? Let me know if you have specific questions. Otherwise, I would start with the TripHex playlist about planning for your trip. That'll give you a lot of ideas. Jason Bone says, Mayor Pete works there at the Transportation Department. Yes, he is now technically Secretary Pete. I bumped into him a few weeks ago. He was on his bike. And I just yelled out, hey, Pete. And he said, how you doing? And that's my story about when I bumped into Pete. Eva says, do I need a COVID test? So if you are vaccinated, you do not need a COVID test. If you are vaccinated, testing and quarantine requirements are waived. So this sidewalk is finally reopened after being closed for a long time. This is an office building under construction. I forget the name of the company that's going to be moving in here, but that will be their headquarters. And then this big area here is currently a bunch of nothing. In 2018, when the Nationals hosted the All-Star Game, they used this space for All-Star Game festivities. So that was kind of cool. It was also miserably hot and humid in July, as it is in DC. Now, if you came to DC in the very early days when Nationals Park had just opened, this area was all inaccessible because it was the headquarters of the National Geospatial Agency. I believe they're part of the DoD. Someone should correct me, though, if that's not correct. And they had a big, ugly building that was basically just windowless walls on all sides, taking up this entire square. It was ugly and awful. It was not pleasant to walk past. And then NGA, National Geospatial Agency, they moved somewhere out, I think to Maryland, to one of the military bases out there. So they are gone. And so far, we just have the one building, this office building, that has been built. And eventually, all of this grass will be new buildings. And yes, great story. It's a pretty boring story, I think, Jason. But yes, Pete was on a bike ride. He was with another guy, and then there were two, I guess, security people. Don't forget that the Secretary of Transportation is in the line of succession. So if you have watched that show, Designated Survivor, you know all about the line of succession. So I'm going to go up around and walk up First Street over here, because this is where all your fast casual restaurants are located in this area. And if you have been watching TripHacks DC for a while or listened to the podcasts, then you know that I am a fan of the fast casual restaurants. That guy in the back just gave a wave. Don't know if anybody saw that. He was waiting for his moment. He was waiting for it. Okay, who was asking about the Hampton Inn? I've completely forgotten who was asking about the Hampton Inn, but here it is, the Hampton Inn by the ballpark. Right here, this is it. It's wedged in between this building, which is under construction, I'll tell you about that in a moment, and the apartment building next door. And all the way at the top, on the roof, is a rooftop bar that you do not need to be staying at the hotel to attend. At least you didn't in the before times. And it is one of the few publicly available spots in the city with a view into the ballpark. So in that sense, it's similar to Wrigley Field with the seats across the street that can look into the ballpark. But it's also not like Wrigley Field because it's way farther away and you can barely see half the field. So this building right here up ahead, this is going to be a future silver diner, but a new concept where they're going to have the diner on the first floor and then they're going to have a bar on the second floor. So I think that will be a welcome addition. It's always good to have diners, diner food, breakfast food, just generally inexpensive food options. So that will be a big improvement to the neighborhood when that opens.
All-out argument, bro. All out.
Glenn, yes, it was you who was asking about the Hampton Inn. So here is the door to the Hampton Inn. I think they only have one door, this one right here. So if you are attending a game, it is an excellent place to stay, but even if you're not, it's still very close to the metro, and you can walk to the Capitol in 20 minutes. You could walk to the National Mall if you wanted, or you could ride the metro for 2 stops. This spot here in the blue, Swizzler, this is a relatively new addition. This was originally a sub shop that closed pre-COVID. It was not a COVID casualty. It closed pre-COVID. And Swizzler was actually mentioned in a podcast episode I did a few years ago when I asked my guest, food writer for the Washingtonian, about her favorite food trucks. She said Swizzler, which started out as a truck. Now, when they had a truck, when they were only the truck, there were only 2 options, I believe, a meat burger and a veggie burger, and they were both delicious. Now their menu has expanded quite a bit, so there's multiple veggie options and multiple meat options. And I will say, I'm not usually a veggie burger kind of person, but man, their veggie burgers are good. So if you have a vegetarian in your group, but you're craving a burger, go to Swizzler, because you'll both be happy. And then we've got Chopped, if you want your salad. I actually think Chopped is a really good pre-ball game meal, especially on a hot day. And then we've got Chipotle, which is Chipotle, not much to say about that. Unfortunately, Roti, which used to be right here, closed. Roti was Mediterranean food. But it was hard to see how Roti could have made it because across the street is Kava, and Kava is very similar food, but way more delicious. So, Rasa is Indian food, fast casual Indian food, also delicious. Definitely recommend stopping here if you are craving Indian food. And it's a little bit different from like the Indian food you would get takeout from an Indian restaurant, you know, your butter chicken or your chicken tikka masala. It's similar, but a little bit different, so it's worth checking out. couple of gyms over here. And this spot, Somewhere Cafe, coffee spot. It's kind of it's an interesting story. It's a coffee shop and a clothing / shoe store. I've been in there. I don't get the clothing and shoe part of it. The stuff in there seems extremely random, but I'm probably just not hip enough for it. The coffee's good though. So if you want a cup of coffee, iced coffee, or hot coffee, you can pop into Somewhere. El Bebe, here on the left. Your coffee / margarita stop. Sorry, coffee. Taco / margarita stop. I'm not really into margaritas, but I know many people are. And on the end is Circa. Circa's been around in DC for a long time. I guess I would describe it as a pretty standard American restaurant. So if you've got a big group or you've got picky eaters, they'll probably be happy there. But if you're looking for something unique or different or fancy, probably not going to find anything too unique in there. And Samir, thank you for tuning in. Good to see you, Samir. And let's see, Newbie82. We were in this area 2 years ago, nearly to the day. So I'm curious, Newbie82, what do you recognize that's different and what do you recognize that's the same? Because a lot of stuff is different than it was 2 years ago, but also a lot of stuff is the same. One thing that changed, Gordon Biersch, which is, it's like a chain brewery, so it's nothing too fancy or special, but they closed pre-COVID. I actually think they announced they were closing in like February of 2020. Like right before everything else shut down because of COVID, they announced they were going out of business at that location. Which makes me think it was something other than COVID that hindered their success. Dave Wheeler tuned in from the central coast of California. And yes, I am having a wonderful walk. It is a beautiful day here in Washington, D.C. How's the weather in central California, Dave Wheeler? And Newbie82 says, LOL construction. There's always construction around here. There's probably another solid decade of construction as they build out the rest of the undeveloped areas in this part of the city. Just this area right here, like I said, we've only got the one office building there finished, and then all these squares are going to have buildings on them. And the parking lot across the street is currently under construction. That will be a building. So there's still lots of constructions here to go. And Claudia Fuentes says, looks like a beautiful day. Sunshine, smiley face. I agree, it is a beautiful day. I gave a TripHex DC Monuments tour this morning. That went quite well. And now out here for a little afternoon walk. So the game, the Nationals game, started about 20 minutes ago. So we'll probably still see a few people coming off of the metro, making their way into the game, but hopefully most folks who wanted to get there on time have already arrived. And Newbie82 says, can't wait to return, waiting for the museums to reopen. So many of the museums have already reopened. I would say all the private museums have reopened, and probably about half of the government museums have reopened. And Smithsonian has announced their plans to reopen all the rest. So by the end of August, all museums will be reopened. Albert tuned in from the beautiful, sunny The Hague in the Netherlands. Thanks for tuning in on such a beautiful day in your part of the world, Albert. And Dave says it is a chilly 60 degrees here, but going to get up in the 80s by the end of the week. So we had a bit of a heat wave last week. Last Wednesday, I gave a tour and was just drenched in sweat. It was miserable. Then by Friday, it was cold and rainy. Yesterday was quite nice, and today, beautiful as well. Albert Rosario is watching the live feed from Puerto Rico. Greetings, Alberto. And Alan Wynn checking in with the score. Nats are up 1-0 at the end of the first inning. It's good to hear that they scored a run because the offense has been quite poor lately. And Newbie82 has been keeping up with the Smithsonian website and TripXDC, a good way to keep track of things. And follow TripXDC on social media, as I post there quite often, only post on the YouTube channel every week at most. This is, I think, what they call a splash pad. So earlier in the live stream, I think I showed the little kids waiting pool. But if you don't want to actually get into a pool, you can come in this fountain and splash around. And I actually had someone on my tour last week asked if it's acceptable for the adults to get in there and splash around. Now, it's designed for kids, but I don't think anyone's going to come and be too upset if you stick your head in one of those fountains and cool down on a hot day. This is also where they have the ice skating rink in the winter. So maybe if people are interested, I can come back here in the winter when the ice skating rink is open. In this building straight ahead is Wise Guy Pizza. Pizzeria number 3, I think, if I haven't missed any. This is a New York style pizza, which is my personal favorite. If there are any New Yorkers in the live stream, I know Vivian was here earlier. Wise Guy is a New York style, which means it's wide and it's thin, and you generally have to fold it in order to be able to pick it up and put it in your mouth. But I love Wise Guy Pizza. I think it's one of the most delicious pizzas in DC. So not a bad choice when you're here visiting. Ephraim, hello from Fayetteville, North Carolina. We'll be back for my birthday on the 27th. Excellent. Is that June 27th? That's coming up soon. So this park here is called Canal Park. It gets its name from the old canal that used to run from the Potomac River and connect to the Anacostia River. It has been closed since the 1800s. But if you've ever seen the Lock Keeper's House on the National Mall, just to the north of the World War II Memorial, that was part of the canal. The canal connected to the Potomac River near what is, I guess, now the Lincoln Memorial. It ran down what is now Constitution Avenue, and then it cut across the National Mall, and it went straight down here this way until it eventually emptied into the Anacostia River. So this park, named Canal Park, in honor of the former canal. Another thing from my Things to Do in DC summer video that unfortunately is now out of date, on the grass back there on the other side, that's where they used to do summer movies. I think they had them here on Thursdays, Wednesdays or Thursdays. Well, it doesn't much matter as they are no longer a thing here, but hopefully those will come back at some point. That was always a fun thing to do, and free. Annie P says, great tour. Thank you, Annie. Thank you for tuning in and for filling me in on Jenny's ice creams, I should say. And Vivian is still here, and yes, we fold the pizza slices. So we had all-purpose pizza at the beginning. That was a Neapolitan style. We had Emmy Squared, which is a Detroit style. We have Wise Guy, which is the New York style. I think we're going to pass at least 2 more pizza spots on the walk, as long as my internet holds up here. This is the Courtyard Marriott. Not a bad spot to stay, but this was one of the first hotels in the area. So right after Nationals Park opened in 2008, the Courtyard Marriott opened. So it's not the newest hotel. It could probably use a bit of a refresh, but it's here. Good location. So this is New Jersey Avenue, and when you're walking on when you're driving or biking or walking down New Jersey Avenue. One of the features is you can see the Capitol Dome off in the distance. Hopefully you spotted that as I made it across the street. Viral G, sorry if I mispronounced that, asks, is it good to rent a car or use Metro? I do not think it is good to rent a car. I think driving is probably the worst way of getting around DC. Metro is a perfectly good way of getting around DC, especially if you're visiting. There's a rental car shortage at the moment, so you're going to pay out the nose for a rental car. That's probably going to be more of a pain than a convenience. So I've got a bunch of videos about using the Metro. I'm working on a video about riding the Metro with Apple Pay and Google Pay. That will hopefully be coming out soon. As a sneak peek, I installed it on my phone the other day. It was a lot of steps to install it, and I consider myself pretty tech savvy, so this may turn out to not be a great option for people. Gregory's Coffee, I believe, just opened. So this used to be a Pete's Coffee. Pete's is a chain coffee shop like Starbucks. And they closed. Uncertain if it was due to COVID, due to their new ownership, or something else, but they're gone. Gregory's is in. I like Gregory's. The first time I had Gregory's was in New York City, and I believe they are from New York City. So if any of my New Yorkers in the live chat would like to confirm that. But good upgrade from Pete's to Gregory's, in my opinion. I actually like Pete's. I think it's better than Starbucks, but certainly not as good as a good local coffee shop. So the Metro over here, the Navy Yard Ballpark station, has two exits. You can use the one here on New Jersey Avenue, or you can use the one on Half Street. The Half Street one is the one that is better to use if you're attending a game. However, if you are attending a game and want to do some stuff beforehand, like go to the Yards Park or eat at any of these restaurants on First Street, then this entrance on New Jersey Avenue might actually be more convenient because it's closer to those things. And Vivian says, I've never heard of Gregory's. I'm surprised, Vivian. I know it was I believe it was a New York place. The first time I ate there was when I was in New York. Bethesda Bagels. Excellent spot for breakfast. You might remember that from my $20 per day challenge series, where I, for 3 days in a row, only spent $20 or less. And I believe the day that I went to the Nationals game on my $20 budget was also the day I ate Bethesda Bagels for breakfast. So if you're looking for breakfast and you're on a tight budget, bagel is often the way to go. And Jason says the $20 series was amazing. Well, thank you, Jason. It was actually a lot of work to make that. Alberto asks, Uber and Lyft are normal operations in DC. I would definitely say no. My tour customers this morning had a lot of trouble with Uber and Lyft. A lot of trouble. I think this is an interesting construction project. They're actually adding 2 floors onto the top of this building. So this building has been here for however many years. And just this year they decided they wanted to add 2 more floors onto the top. So that's why we're about to walk under this. So what I know about Uber and Lyft is that there aren't enough drivers. So prices are way higher than they used to be. And it takes longer to wait for someone to accept your ride. It takes longer to wait for them to drive to you. If anybody in the live chat is an Uber or Lyft driver, let me know if that seems accurate from your perspective. Samir from India, good to see you too, Samir. Thanks for tuning in from India. And Leonel, sorry if I mispronounced that. Thanks for tuning in from Guatemala. I'm quite impressed with how international the audience is today. Shake Shack is another New York place. Now I know there's supposed to be a rivalry between Shake Shack and Good Stuff Eatery in DC. Good Stuff Eatery is the local burger joint. Shake Shack's delicious though, I'm not even gonna try to deny that. Swizzler, I would probably say, has better burgers, but they don't have shakes. So if you want the burger and the shake, Shake Shack is where you gotta come to get that. And here's Kava. So like I mentioned before, Roti was the Mediterranean spot that closed over on 1st Street. And I don't know how they could compete with Kava because Kava is just so delicious. This is the Homewood Suites, so another good spot to stay if you are attending a game. It's technically not the closest spot to the ballpark, that would be the Hampton Inn, but it's only 1 block away. And the cool thing about the Homewood Suites is that you are within view of the metro as soon as you step out of the door. One of the spots I mentioned in my where to eat and drink before a Nationals game is the Big Stick. It is, I believe, one of the only totally baseball-themed bars in the neighborhood. So there's lots of sports bars and such, but the Big Stick is exclusively a baseball-themed bar, which I think is kind of cool. All right, Vivian has looked up Gregory's and sees that there are several locations in Manhattan. Do you live in Manhattan, Vivian, or do you live in one of the other boroughs? I'm curious. And Jason Bone says it's very accurate based on my recent travels to Des Moines and Nashville. I assume you're talking about Uber and Lyft. People having trouble with Uber and Lyft. Jason. And Dave Wheeler asks, when flying into Reagan, do I recommend sitting on the left or the right side of the airplane? Very good question. So when you are flying to DC, you want to sit on the left side of the plane. When you are departing, you want to sit on the right side of the plane. And this is no guarantee because it depends on which direction the wind is blowing. We had this whole discussion on a previous live stream. But if the wind is blowing in a favorable direction, you will be able to see the monuments and the Capitol and the National Mall and the White House and all that stuff when you're coming into DC if you're on the left, and when you're leaving DC if you are on the right. So when you're choosing your seat on the airline, choose wisely, or if you're flying on Southwest, get a good number so you can get on the plane early and get that seat by the window. And Evan Simmons just joined. Am I near the Metro? Yes, I am. Metro's right there. And I just walked past the New Jersey Avenue entrance of the Metro a few minutes ago. Vivian Young knows Shake Shack very well. And Claudia Fuentes just discovered the channel and has been watching videos. Thank you for tuning in, Claudia. And Mike from Edmonton, UK, thanks for rejoining, Mike and Lorraine. And Vivian is in the Bronx. Do they have Shake Shacks in the Bronx? They must. I'm curious though. Probably not Gregory's though. Gregory's I feel like is more of a Manhattan type business. But I imagine there must be a Shake Shack in the Bronx. So this is Half Street. If you take the Metro to the game, this is where you will come out. And I believe there must have just been a home run because I hear the NATS 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 chant all the way from back here. So if anyone is watching the game on TV and can confirm that there was just a home run. Vivian says, sitting on the left side once saw the Pentagon. Yes, so if you're sitting on the correct side of the plane, depending on whether you're coming or going, you can see the Pentagon, and on the opposite side, you can see the National Mall. So this is the Navy Yard station, right over here. This entrance is different from other entrances because the fare gates are up here at the top on street level. Most metro stations, you have to go down the escalator first, and then once you go down the escalator, you get to the fare gates. On this one, they're all the way up here, and that means that your fare boxes are over here. So a little bit different, but if you are riding the metro, you'll be coming out of the station here, come out of your station, you turn left, and there's the game right over there. Extremely convenient. This is the bullpen. This place has been around for, I think, as long as National Park has been around. There have been many different iterations of the bullpen, though. It used to be much larger. Before this huge apartment building was built right here, this entire side of the street, all the way down to the end, and all the way down to this end of the street over here, was the bullpen. So it used to be huge. But it was also the only place in the area where you could go for a drink before the game. So this was 10-ish years ago. Your choices for drinking before a game were the bullpen, Justin's Cafe, which sadly no longer exists. Sad, because it was one of my favorites. Buffalo Wild Wings, if you're in the mood for wings. And huge news, And Pizza, one of my favorite pizzerias, is opening up a new spot right over here, right next to the metro. I've talked about And Pizza a whole bunch of times. It's a different type of pizza, so I don't even know what style this is technically. It's in this shape, this long shape, and it's got kind of a crackery crust, but still kind of a bready crust. And man, it is good. And all the pizzas are made to order. So there's no sitting around under a hot light waiting for somebody to order it. When you order your pizza, they're making the pizza and then putting it in the oven. 4-0 Nats, thank you Jay for confirming that. And Jason Bone just made notes on where to sit on the plane. Good thinking, Jason. This video will be posted as a replay, so you can always come back to it later. Now, Half Street has not looked like this. This is the first baseball season that Half Street looked like this. When Nationals Park opened, this was a giant hole. It was lovingly called the Half Street Hole. And they had originally planned to do a big development on this spot right next to the ballpark. And then during the 2008 housing/financial crash, the developer, I don't know what happened to them exactly, but the whole project got torpedoed. And then it took another decade for another developer to pick it up. So if you came to a game prior to 2019, this building was not here. This was the Half Street Hole. On this side, this was the bullpen, of course, and then they built this building here. So we've got a bunch of spots here. We've got, coming soon, Compass Coffee, a good local DC coffee brand. We've got Cold Stone Creamery. Hip City Veg. I'm not sure when Hip City Veg is supposed to open, but they've got a few other locations in DC and are quite delicious. It's all vegetarian food, so they don't serve any meat in there. So good spot for vegetarians, but also if you are visiting with meat eaters, some of the vegetarian dishes look and taste like meat, so quite interesting. And then Atlas Brew Works is a brewery, and they're also the home to, let me see if I can see the sign, Pizzeria number 5, Andy's Pizza, which the light is not turned on so it's hard to see, but Andy's Pizza, the window is right there, and you can get it either by the slice or the whole pie. That is also a New York style. So similar to Wise Guy Pizza, Andy's Pizza is that wide, thin crust, New York style that you fold in half. I would even go so far as to say I like Andy's better than Wise Guy. I think it's a little bit more crisp, and I think it's a little bit less greasy. But don't get me wrong, you can't go wrong with either choice. Evan Cortez, good to see you, my friend. Yes, the bullpen was the scene of a grand celebration in 2019. The day that the Nationals won the World Series was cold and rainy in DC. The game was played in Houston, so some people were inside the park over here watching on the Jumbotron. A whole bunch of people were back in the other direction watching it at the bullpen. But if you were in DC and you wanted to celebrate the Nationals winning the World Series, this was the spot to be. And Vivian says Shake Shack is in the Bronx, Gregory's is not, as I suspected. And Mike Edmondson, how many breweries are in DC today? Oh man, that is a good question. I find this brewery question quite fascinating because before DC Brau opened, and I want to say they opened around 10 years ago, there was zero. There was not a single one. Not a single brewery in DC. And then all of a sudden, all these breweries opened up. And so now we've got 2 breweries in this neighborhood alone. We've got Blue Jacket, which I showed you earlier, and then we've got Atlas, which is over there. So I have no idea the exact number, but it's got to be at least 10, maybe a dozen. I don't know. I'll have to get back to you on that one. DC Brau was the first. They also are one of my favorites for just getting cans of beer. And Alan Wynn coming in with the plane knowledge. Winds are super important for determining where you'll get a good view on the plane because bad winds equals different runway and no view. This is Mission. This is a Mexican restaurant. So some people like El Bebe for their tacos and margaritas. Some people like Mission. Mission is nice because it's huge, absolutely huge, and they've got this second floor up here. So hopefully you'll be able to see it when we walk past people hanging out on the balcony up here on the second floor. So on a game day, they'll open up the windows and the second floor of the bar will be kind of open air. I'm getting the AC walking down the street here. Gotta love that feeling. And then this spot here is Walter's Sports Bar. This was another spot to be Evan Cortez when the Nationals won the World Series. They also have the big windows that open up, so when you're sitting inside, it feels like you're sitting in the fresh air. I'm a fan of that. Lots of TVs in there, lots of big TVs, and they set this up last year when everybody started setting up their tables in the street because of COVID. So Walters has built this outdoor picnic area, and they even have these TVs mounted on the wall. So if you want to watch a game, can't go wrong with Walters. All right, we'll see how close we can get to the gate today. So one important thing to know if you are attending a Nationals game this year, no big bags are allowed. You'll have to check the Nationals website to see the exact rules. I believe you're allowed to have a small purse. You're allowed to have a small bag if you have like food in it or a bottle of water. You're allowed to bring in one unopened bottle of water if you would like, so you don't have to buy bottled water inside, but only one bottle. So on a hot day, that's not gonna last for too many innings. This is where the MGM Sportsbook is supposed to be opening up soon. You can already bet when you're inside the game. That's all I'm gonna say about that because YouTube has very strict rules about that topic, which I almost forgot. It slipped up. And Viral asks which Indian restaurants are good in DC. If you rewind, you can see Rasa, which is one of my favorites. I don't really have a take on which ones are very good. I like Rasa and I like Indigo. Those are probably my 2 favorites, but I haven't been to a bad one per se. So I wouldn't say there's anywhere to avoid. People still making their way into the game. And coming down Half Street. You can always tell when a metro train has just arrived because there's a big wave of people making their way down Half Street. Straight up ahead, this building there, that is a brand new hotel. It's called the Thompson Hotel. I think there's a Thompson in Chicago and a few other cities. So this is their new DC hotel. But aside from the hotel, they have a rooftop bar called the Anchovy Bar that I have heard is excellent. Have not been there myself, but I've heard good things. Tap 99 coming soon. This is one of those self-pour, pour your own type places. What do you guys think about these? Have you been to one of these pour your own type places? I am not personally a fan, but I'm curious if other people like it, or if I'm just in the minority there. And Kilwins, which I looked up, they are a chain. They're all over the country, but they specialize in sweet stuff. So if you've got a sweet tooth, this is actually probably one of the perfect locations for a place like this, because people come out of the game, they're hot and they're sweaty, and they want some dessert. They're going to stop right there at Kilwins. So Tap 99, according to their window dressing, they're going to have 99 self-pour taps and authentic brick oven pizza. So Jay asks, are all those people going to the game now, is it cheaper to go in after it has started? No, Jay, it just happens that a lot of people are tardy when it comes to baseball. They don't arrive on time. It usually takes up until around the third inning for a ballpark to fully fill in. I always like to get there early. I want to be there for first pitch, but lots of people get there late. I'd say this is probably more of a thing on a weeknight game when you have people who are coming in after work. Because if the game starts at 7 and you don't get off of work until 6, you might not get there in time. But on a Sunday for a 1 o'clock game, I would hope most people would get there for first pitch. Even though I just looked at the clock, that's been almost an hour ago. So if you're coming in now, you're already quite late. You're going to miss a third of the game. Bat Dog says, not a fan of the pour your own. It is overwhelming, LOL. And I agree with that. 99 choices is so many choices. You're going to have decision fatigue, I feel like. And here's my beef with the pour your own. So I went to one of those pour your own places in Los Angeles when I was there for something a few years ago. And the way that the tap works is that you swipe your card and then you pull the tap and it starts charging you. So it's like pumping gas where, you know, it's just like running up as you're pouring your drink. And at a regular bar, if you have a good bartender, they will typically, you know, if it's foamy, they'll pour off the foam and fill up your whole glass. Well, at the pour your own, you're paying for the foam because you're paying for however long you have the tap open. So I don't want to pay for foam. If you're going to a bar, you're already paying bar prices for a draft beer. That's my opinion, and perhaps that's an unpopular opinion, but I'm curious what you guys think. So leave a chat and let me know. Dave Wheeler asks, what other cities do I like touring? I think, are you asking what cities do I personally like to go on tours in? New York City. There are so many awesome tours in New York City. Philadelphia. Any big city, really. London, Paris. I've been on tours in all these places. If you're asking about which cities I do tours in, only Washington, D.C. Right over here we have the bicycle valet. The bicycle valet is awesome. You can see the whole place is packed with bicycles. The Nationals were the first team to offer such a thing. So in the US, at many ballparks, you drive your car, you pay a bunch of money, you park your car in a parking lot, you go to the game, after the game's over, you go back out to the parking lot and you drive home. And Nationals Park was built with far fewer parking lots than some of the other major league parks. And so they needed other ways to help people to get to the park. So the Metro is the most popular way of getting to the park. And I would say probably a majority of the fans who arrive at the game arrive by Metro, or at least they did in the before times. But as you could see, there were not a small number of bikes in the bicycle valet. So I've always thought that was really cool. I bet other teams have started to offer that by now, but that has been here since the very beginning. So since, I guess, 2008, when Nationals Park opened, they had the bicycle valet. And Jay Stewart is extremely curious about why people are showing up to the game late and says, you paid to watch the whole game. I'm with you, Jay. I don't like to show up to the game an hour late. People also leave the game early, Jay. So you pay to watch the whole game, but you don't have to. You can watch as much or as little as you want. And Medhura from India, thank you for tuning in. I love how global the audience is today, especially because I know some folks have had to stay up quite late to watch this live stream. Alan asked a good question. Are refillable bottles allowed at Nationals Park? Yes, I believe as long as it's empty when you bring it in. So you can bring in an empty bottle, and then when you get inside, you can go to a concession stand and ask if they can fill it up for you. Now, I've heard mixed things about the concession stands. So when I went to a game a couple weeks ago, the concession stands were all understaffed, and there were really long lines for all of them. But then I heard from folks who attended a game earlier this week that they didn't have any trouble with lines or crowds at the concession stands.
2 down in the inning.
And Viril, I have a hotel guide at triphacksdc.com/hotels. And any of the hotels on that list I can say would be a good place to stay. But more important than the list itself is the areas. As long as you're in one of the areas that I recommend, then you will be A-OK. And after an hour and a half, I have made it all the way back to about the spot where I started. So if you have any final questions about an upcoming Washington, D.C. trip, drop them in the chat now so that I can answer them before I disconnect. But I do want to tell you that I do have several videos in the works. So firstly, as soon as the National Park Service announces information about July 4th, I will have a video about that. I do find it extremely frustrating that we're 3 weeks away from the holiday and they have no information about this year's event. But as soon as they do, I will pass that on to you. Second, I will have an upcoming video about how to ride Metro using Google Pay or Apple Pay. So if you're curious about that, you can watch that. And I think next weekend I am also going to have another live stream, not one of these out and about live streams, one of these sitting at my desk live streams, because I asked you to tell me what mistakes you made when you visited Washington, D.C. in the past, and I got so many good answers that I want to compile those and put them out into the world for all to see. So I think I will do that in a live stream format, probably next Saturday, probably after my morning tour is over. So maybe 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure you're subscribed to TripHacksDC on social media so that you get that information as soon as I have it. And Jay asks if I'm going into the game now. No, Jay, because I like to go to the whole game. I prefer not to attend an hour late. And Samir asks, when is the next live tour? I don't have a schedule for this year, Samir, but I suspect that I will probably do a live stream on July 4th. I don't want to put out a regular video on July 4th because it's a holiday and lots of people are going to be busy with their family cookouts and other such fun activities. So I will probably do a live stream on July 4th. I don't know where I'm going to go yet, so if you have any ideas, leave a comment and let me know where you think I should go. I might go to the National Mall to check out what's going on over there, but I'm always reluctant to do a live stream over there because the cell signal's terrible over there and I always seem to drop off like I did earlier today, and that's no fun for anybody. Daniel K., thank you for the super chat, my friend. Always much appreciated. I'm glad you were able to make it to DC a few weeks ago. Hopefully you'll be able to come back at some point. And let's see, Lisa, thank you for tuning in. Jose, thank you for tuning in. I will see you soon on July 2nd. And Claudia will be keeping up with TripHacksDC to make sure that they don't miss anything. Alan Wayne, good to see you as always, my friend. Jay Stewart, glad we were able to catch you this time, and we didn't get the time zones mixed up again. And JM, thank you for the kind words. Vivian, thank you for tuning in and for dropping all your New York City knowledge here. And Jay Stewart, £4.99, thank you for that, my friend. That's valuable around here. Those pounds, they're valuable in our dollars. And Samir, thank you for tuning in. And Glenn Fisher, thanks for tuning in from Toronto. And if you had fun, I forgot to tell you, please leave a thumbs up on this video. Should have mentioned that a bunch of times before, but I forgot. So if you enjoyed this, go ahead and leave me a thumbs up so that I know that I should do more of them. And if you have any suggestions, ideas for future live streams, go ahead and leave them in a comment, and I will consider it for a future live stream. Gabriel, hope you can make it to the stadium tour. And Claudia, thank you for the super chat, my friend. Very much appreciated. And with that, I will say, as always, see you later.